This actual play is intended for mature audiences and contains themes some viewers may find upsetting. Please check each episode's show notes for specific content warnings and enjoy the show with care.
Okay, it is the between. Let's do some recapping and indeed some housekeeping. We've reached a point in the campaign where at this point you have 6 mastermind clues. I'll remind you that the answer to the Sally No Face question, because you rolled so well, becomes a mastermind clue. And I've been thinking about how to interpret it. The interpretation I've come up with is that Theodora has an interest in preservation of youth and vitality, which I think connects up pretty well with what we were sort of doing with Sally No Face. But I'm open to like other interpretations. There might be something more direct with Sally or something else. But that's where I'm at right now with it. Obviously, whenever you get ready to answer the mastermind question, you can put your own spin on things as needed. But we do have 6 mastermind clues with Theodora, and that means we're getting pretty close to being able to answer the mastermind question if you wish. You're entitled to answer it. Once you had 4, you were entitled to answer it. It would have been a very, very hard roll, but you could have done it. Hereafter, you're in much more realistic territory for approaching it. And I bring all this up because if we're just playing one campaign, or one campaign arc, but if we were playing multiple campaign arcs, and maybe we will in the future, I don't know, but if we were playing multiple campaign arcs, you would have a decision to make as a play group of when do we want to face Theodora and deal with her, and then basically it would kind of pause everything else. You would do that. You'd have to go confront her scheme, and then we would go back into the campaign again, and eventually another mastermind would rear their head, right? That's sort of the flow of it, right? But a consideration that we have, because ostensibly we're just doing this one campaign arc, we have to think about like, do we want to get into a place where we've resolved as many threats as we can before we do the mastermind question? Do we want to tell more of the story, the backstory of the characters? The characters are designed so that it's very hard to do your entire Mask of the Past in one campaign arc. But you may want to consider that as you're thinking about how your character's doing, how they're going, when to mark a Janus mask. Maybe you get a little bit more liberal with that just because you want more opportunities to reveal your backstory. That's all in your hands. The decision to confront Theodora is in your hands, with one minor thing. There is a possibility that Theodora gets the jump on you and attacks Hargrave House first. I'm not going to talk about the circumstances that will bring that about, but I will tell you when it's about to happen. So that is the situation. This is all obviously out of character talk. I bring it up now. It's a good time to talk about it. It's a good time to bring it up so you can start thinking about both your characters and your story, but also this story and when we want to drive it to a conclusion, because it truly is in your hands. So that said, I'll keep introducing threats as we do. So just know that that's still going to happen. Speaking of the threats, somewhat connected to that, the St. James's Street ghost is now a servant of the mastermind. Theodora has captured the power of the ghost inside of her sapphire. That is not a capital C clue, but boy, is it great context for whatever she's trying to do, right? So keep that in mind. So we don't have to worry about the St. James's Street ghost in that way.
Sorry, I was going to ask very quickly. In the last session, you mentioned a phylactery, I think it was called.
Yes.
Is that what the sapphire was?
That's what the sapphire was. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yes. Excellent.
Yes.
And by that I mean, oh God.
Mm-hmm. And yes, we use phylactery in this house, not the H word. So let's keep going here. So we got 2 active threats and then your side threat. Sally No Face, you've answered the question. we have determined that Sally No-Face is, you might need to remind me that the details, the specifics, but basically it was almost like an attempt to, it was like a combination of like a spurned lover, but also wanting to recapture their youth or something. Can somebody remind me the details of what was going on there?
Sally is an actress who has kind of aged out of relevance, essentially.
That's right.
And is kind of looking for ways to preserve her youth, but has kind of lost her mind whilst doing it, and has become embroiled in taking other people's faces.
Mm-hmm.
And the child that Haskell predictably fell foul of is her son.
Yeah, that's right.
Who is blackmailing her because he's the only person who will be able to prove her real age.
Right.
And I think the other thing is that she's used so much of the preservative agent that she has to wear a mask now, so we can't see her face.
Yeah, I think that's great. And of course, there is a connection to Mrs. Brathwaite, even though we never really saw Theodora interacting with the Sally No-Face threat as such. We do know that she just happens to have purchased the house near the house that is connected to Sally. And also, I mean, I don't think it's an accident that these things are all happening kind of close to each other, right? So just something to be mindful of. Fantastic. We haven't gotten too far into the Nutcracker yet, but here we have this serial killer, the sculptor, who is murdering and gelding male dancers from the Royal Ballet. And we haven't seen too much of it yet, but it's there, which also a reminder, we are in Christmas season right now. So we're in December. And then we have the side threat. And you have answered the question, and off mic, Michelle had pitched to me a sort of alternative way of pursuing the opportunity, which I am totally into. So just to say, yes, we're going to do that at some point, Michelle. So I'm excited by that. All of that kind of leads to kind of how I want to structure today's play. So we have this normal day-night phase structure and the balance between how much is day phase and how much is night phase, right? Per the rules of the book, and indeed in the new edition of the book, there's lots of advice here. I have the authority and the ability to adjust that to account for where our story is at any given time. And because we have two threats that are on the precipice of being resolved, and indeed need to be resolved very soon, and because I want to sort of luxuriate in the endings of those two threats, I'm going to make the day phase a little bit shorter and then the night phase a little bit longer for today. So that's just something to be mindful of. What I'd like to do for the day phase, I think, is start with, we have all of these various flashbacks and narrations we have to do from last time. So we'll kind of start with that. And then if you all want to have some personal scenes, some vulnerable moves getting triggered, that kind of thing, we can do that for a little bit. And then we'll transition into the Dusk. So does anyone have any questions about where things stand, where things are going? All right, then. We shall proceed apace with the day phase. Another threat, as ever, appears. We can't get away from them. London is lousy with monsters and killers, I fear. Our threat is called Fig's Pigs. Dr. Mortimer, you're the most beloved, yes?
Yes, I am.
Indeed. The Fig family sent you one of their famous Fig's pigs, a meat pie, or a pie, with a little pig stamped on the crust. It was explained to me that people in the UK would not actually say meat pie as a phrasing, but the old edition of the game still has it written that way. The Fig family sent you one of their famous Fig's pigs, a pie with a little pig stamped on the crust. You enjoyed the first few bites before realizing it contained human meat. What gave it away?
The first few bites were absolutely delicious, and then I know human meat. I know it intimately. I know the smell. I know the taste. The blood is ever so slightly more irony. And I can't help but enjoy knowing what's gone into this for a moment before realizing what has happened. And I pull the pie away. And as I pull it back, I can see maybe what looks like to be a tooth inside the meat on the inside as well.
Delicious. You actually used your new contacts in Scotland Yard to inform them of what was happening at the pie shop. And indeed, Mr. Fig was arrested. His wife and 2 adult sons, however, managed to escape capture. And Mr. Fig is being held at Bethlehem Royal Hospital. He won't tell the inspectors anything about where his family might be, though he has been singing a little song about them. Sing a song of 3 figs, the apples of my eye, snatch a bunch of long pigs and bake them into pies. First comes little Patrick about on paw or hoof. He thinks he's an animal and has since his troubled youth. Obert the blade has fine taste, more than most I know. It has to be the right pig, see, the meat must be just so. My love, la bella Hortensia, the gravy to my crust, to hold that which she loved and lost, she'll do what she must. Sing a song of 3 figs, their names you all now know. You'll see them down old London town, and in the sack you'll go. Amazingly, Scotland Yard, in fact, Haskell's new friend, D.I. Fairweather, has asked for Hargrave House to help in capturing the figs. Fairweather wants to keep the investigation of the figs pie shop in Shoreditch fairly quiet, without official police presence, so as not to set off a pie hysteria throughout the city. You all have come to the conclusion that Mr. Fig's song is a guide for how to find the other figs. Indeed, it has helped you form the following questions. What kind of animal does Patrick Fig think he is? This is a complexity 2. Opportunity, lure said animal out into the open and then capture or destroy him. What type of victim does Obert Fig prefer? Complexity 2. Lure Obert Fig to you and then capture or destroy him. What did La Hortensia Fig lose that she's trying to recapture or remember? Complexity 2. Find her and then capture or destroy her. All 3 figs must be captured or destroyed for this threat to be considered resolved. However, only the last one has to be done at night. You can capture the other 2 at any point of the day or of the phase structure. You have an aspect of the Janus mask here available to you, the Mask of the Pig. Additionally, as ever, this threat is on a timer. If 5 night phases pass without capturing all the figs, all the remaining figs escape. So, that's where things stand with all the threats. So many serial killers, so many nasty people roaming around. We have a scarred reflection, we have the Mask of Beauty, we have a body part, and we have a mask from Haskell. Whoever wants to begin, whatever they owe, please do.
Fine, I'll go. Okay. Strap yourselves in. Narrate a flashback to the event that eventually forced you into servitude. I am standing in a large hall in a great country manor, an English country manor. It's nighttime, but still you can tell that the grandeur of this place is a little faded. Everywhere, artifacts and other things are covered in drop sheets, like ghosts lining the hallways and corridors of this huge place. This is the big score that we have been looking for all this time. Blake is also in this room, lost in what we've achieved, what we have lucked into, and the pay dirt that is everywhere. Blake, my mentor, my partner in crime, my promise of something better than this, is absorbed in what we found. Like, this is what he's been promising me all this time. For months now, we have literally been around the world looking for this, and here we are. And there's a lot of ground to cover. We're like kids in a sweet shop. There is so much loot here. And we separate to try and cover as much ground as we can. And as I kind of split off from Blake, I see a light on down a hall. And I slowly approach to find a door open. And the one person that we thought we would run into, sitting in a rocking chair, is a man, an old man, who's quite dead. He's the caretaker of this place. He's not been dead long. He's in his pajamas, in a dressing gown, probably in his 80s or 90s. And in his lap, he holds a gilded, sawn-off shotgun and a picture in his hand of what could only be presumed to be a younger him and a small boy standing on a pier, their short sleeves rolled up, handkerchief tied in 4 knots on the head to denote a British summertime. And I take the shotgun. It's shiny, and Blake likes shiny things, and I think he'll like this. And I leave this man who's wasted his entire life below stairs, an entire life of servitude for what? For nothing, to die in a rocking chair with no one around him. And I pad back out into the main hall, and something catches my magpie eyes in a glass case, and it's a trophy of sorts, and I'm kind of looking at it, looking at the names engraved, trying to kind of catch them in the moonlight. And then in the glass of the case, I catch the glint of metal behind me, and I turn so quickly, and a gun goes off and shatters the case. And instinctively, I pull the trigger, and a person flies away from me in a mist of red. It's Blake. And as he hits the ground, I hear police whistles in the background. I hear police whistles in the East Wing, in the West Wing. The place is surrounded. Blake was always my escape plan. He was always the way in and the way out. And now he's dead, and I don't know what to do. I need to think, and I need to think fast. Moments later, members of the local parish constabulary enter to find me standing over Blake's dead body, shotgun in hand, and I'm wearing pajamas and a dressing gown. And they're shining a lantern in my face, and they're saying, "Drop the gun!" And still wheeling, racing for a solution to this problem, I say, get the light out of my face. I work here. And the constable says, "Old man Haskell manages this estate alone." And that's my out. I say, I travelled up from London this morning. I'd received word that my father's health was ailing, and I needed to help get his affairs in order. I'm his son. And I regret to inform you that he's quite dead. He died a few hours ago. I would have contacted the doctor, but for the late hour. Now, Constable, if you wouldn't mind getting the light out of my eyes, there are 2 of these men. One I've taken care of. The other has escaped through the West Wing, probably went straight past your men, if you wouldn't mind expediting his capture. And you can see the busies trying to figure this out. And eventually, most of them filter out in the direction that I send them, leaving me alone with a constable and Blake on the floor. And the man we now know as Haskell drops to a stoop by the body. And the constable says, "That thieving scumbag had it coming." And the man we now know as Haskell reaches into the shirt collar of Blake, his mentor, his partner in crime, his promise of something better, and pulls out a gold St. Christopher and says, "We all have it coming, constable."
When William Farrow grabbed Cecelie's wrist and pulled her close to him and spoke of his worship of Roger the Reaver and how she could be like him, she wasted no time in dispatching him. It is not the first time that a man has tried to mold her beauty into his image, and it won't be the last. And with that act of callous cruelty, that murder, her reflection was scarred as somewhere in a rehearsal room in an opera house in Edinburgh, a musical director pores over a score of The Distant Celestial. He has been instructed by the director to shave a few minutes off the runtime. He looks at the overture and he begins to score through 2 pages. It's where the melody from the Act 2 opening interpolates into the overture, and he's never really cared for that song. It's too lilting, too much of a lament, too off-kilter and too odd, that Act 2 opening. Very, very different from the more popular style of the day, which is a rousing chorus number to bring the audience excitedly back into the piece after the interval. And as he's reflecting on this, crossing out those pages, he thinks to himself, I've always thought of myself as something of a composer. I could perhaps take a crack at that Act 2 opening number, see if I couldn't improve it somewhat. He looks over it. It's mostly a cappella, a madrigal, a lament. And he thinks to himself, I could just add a little orchestration underneath the vocals to lift the mood of the piece. I could cut some of this, make it quicker, increase the tempo, and then we'd have a jolly little Act 2 opening number. And the young soprano playing the adult Cecelie is such a lovely young girl. It would be lovely to give her more chances to smile on stage. She really ought to smile.
I think I was asked to design a threat for one. Design a clue, not a threat. My bad. I was asked to design a clue for one of the threats. I'm going to go for the Nutcracker. And the clue I would like is that on Emez, who I was conducting the autopsy of, is something I left off the paperwork because I found it too upsetting. It was true he had been gelded, but that was not the only thing that the sculptor took. He had sliced from the corner of his mouth, up and around his lips, removed both until his teeth were bared, almost as if he was trying to emulate the teeth of the Nutcracker itself. Poor Emez. Poor sweet Emez.
I think, Jess, you owe a body part as well.
You are completely correct. I owe lungs And I owe guts. Cora's torso, as I described previously, had been tipped and trained by corsets her entire life. Now, the design of such corsets in this age is to taper it in at the waist and provide what is meant to be this very attractive hourglass figure. In reality, what it does is it crushes down the bones until they morph the inner organs themselves, the lungs, the guts. It presents great trouble to those who wear them. They cannot breathe or digest. Cora and I spent many an hour discussing the particular pains of being women in this world. And yet, she would not abandon the corset. It was not for her to abandon. She was owned. Owned by the company who she was indebted to. Owned by the pimp after her husband threw her out for not being able to bear children. This corset was her lifeline to what was left of civilization, or what man would call civilization. She once said that she admired my courage of wearing a suit. It takes far more courage to sink to the norms, I find, than to buck them.
I know that everyone has to do the Mask of Beauty, if I remember correctly, in which you have to narrate the last time you felt truly beautiful.
It's been a long time since Phoebe has thought anything of her face. She sees it, as you would expect in a mirror, but she doesn't think much of it. The last time she thought anything of it, she was facing the sea outside of the convalescent home. They encourage ocean air and sunshine, fresh air, all of these things when you are in recovery. And so she sits, a little sketch pad in her hand as she doodles idly the pelicans that fly by, the gulls and their incessant chatter, the waves as they come in. She's not alone on this seashore. There are others. Some are just lying there. They are not as far along in their convalescence as she is. Some are playing idle games, and some are like her. Idle crafts. And as she finishes her doodle, she closes the book and begins to stand, and a voice, not far, just to the side and behind a bit, asks her, "Wait, Mom, can you just stay a little longer?" And she turns, and she is 17, and perhaps this young man is no more than 15. But he has a gentle way about him. And so she asks with some curiosity what he wants. And he just says she looked more interesting than the birds. She frowns, but she stays.
Okay. From the looks of the architecture, we're somewhere in North Africa. There's a kind of like kind of the kind of Hispanic Arabic archways, and there's kind of minarets. That maybe this is Morocco, maybe this is Tunisia. Who can say? But the man we know as Haskell is sat on a roof terrace, and he is sitting very awkwardly. He is incredibly hot. He has beads of sweat trickling down his forehead. And he is trying as hard as he can not to be bothered by the attentions of a peacock, which is sat on the back of the sofa next to him. Across from him on the roof terrace is Blake, who is behind an easel and is busily painting what could be quite an absurd portrait. And Haskell says, "Can I move yet? Can I see it yet? Like, please, this is torture for me." And Blake just kind of gives a knowing laugh. Doesn't want to show his hand quite yet. And maybe after kind of 15 or 20 minutes of this torture, the canvas is turned around. And it's kind of crude, but Haskell has never seen himself depicted so compassionately before, so with love. And for the first and perhaps only time, he has felt desired in the brushstrokes of that man.
Cecelie sat for a portrait once too. A week she sat in that artist's atelier, posed perfectly on this couch, fully nude, and kept still and waited. And finally, after many hours on the end of this week, the artist finally said, "It's finished. It's finished." And she stood, without fussing around getting dressed, and walked over and looked at the canvas. And there was a painting of a beautiful woman, a lovely woman with tapering fingers, the curve of her stomach, the softness of her thighs. She was beautifully accurate. The anatomy was without flaw. That was a picture of a woman. And Cecelie looked at this very accurate painting and looked at the artist and said, "I knew an artist once. You, my friend, are no artist." And as she watched the man descend to his knees in sobs and beg for her forgiveness, she felt so beautiful.
It is hard to exist as a woman. It is impossible to exist as a woman in a world that men have created and tailored to themselves. It was pain and endless hours of repeated surgeries over and over and over again for Mortimer to get where she is. She was looked down upon, sneered at. She had rumors smeared about her regarding her sexual proclivities, regarding her inabilities with scalpels. From every level of hell, these rumors seemed to fly about the halls and hospitals. It was impossible, it felt, to be accepted for what she was, which was a damn fine surgeon. That was until a young man soldier, was entered into St. Thomas's with a rather unique condition. His pericardial sac had been punctured. This is the sac that sits around the medastrium of the heart. It limits the heart's motion in between the lungs. When it is punctured, it is unable to perform its purpose. The fluid inside begins to leak. Death comes within days, and it is unavoidable. Or so they thought. Dr. Eveline Mortimer, in a first, saved the young man's life, stitched it up. And to no rumors, to no nasty words, jeers, jibes, or... For once, her peerage looked down upon her from the galleys, all of them in their whites, and they applauded, wordlessly applauded, the work that she had done. And for the second time in her life, she was accepted. And it was the most beautiful feeling she'd ever known.
Fantastic. A couple of other little housekeeping items that I wanted to talk about before today, but did not, or talk about before we started, but forgot to. One is, Ms. Jean-Baptiste, you took the ritual chamber move. At the outset, that increases your reason by 1, which is important, but also the ritual chamber is now in play. I have an idea for when that's going to be a thing to contend with, and I will let you know, but I'm just noting it for people watching the program, that there is something in play there that could be happening. The other thing is connected to rooms in Hargrave House. Last time you had this flashback to Maricat Ovelia, this poor servant who was kidnapped away to the Fey realm. She's back, and she is now an advancement in Hargrave House. She's a resident of Hargrave House. Maricat Ovelia can act as an etiquette guide and translator on behalf of the hunters when dealing with the Fey. For any future encounters with the Fey, on 3 occasions, you can enlist her aid to roll with advantage. The marking of the 3rd and final box marks the expiration of Maricat's hard-won knowledge. Before returning to the Feathered Abbey to renew her studies, she will give you a farewell gift, the transgression. We'll talk about that more if it happens. But in any case, know that we don't have any Fey threats right now, but if we ever do, or Fey, or there's plausible connections to the Fey, we can certainly get Maricat involved. Okay, if anyone has an idea for a scene they'd like to have with another hunter, or maybe just a personal scene, maybe something that will help you answer one of your Dawn questions, yes, go ahead and say so. Now,
whilst Haskell is perhaps the only action-orientated character at this table, I need to be indulged today. I'm getting up very, very early, and I'm going to see Mr. Harley White, because I believe he needs to be taught a lesson about discretion, given that we have had the police calling, and I don't think that's acceptable.
He's a bit of a mess, isn't he, Harley White? I like this very much. I don't think we need to go into the realm of die rolls here. I just want to know what happens.
I mean, you might regret not asking me to roll dice, Jason. But
well,
I think
get me there gently, and we'll see where we go.
Okay. So Harley White awakes in a shack where he sleeps, which is kind of backing onto the graveyard. It's kind of next to an old pub. And bless him, he's only just gone to bed because it's like 5 a.m. and he's been busy. And he awakes as I kick his boots. And I'm stood over him with my cane. And I pull the dagger out and I slash him across the face.
Oh, fantastic. I think he obviously is screaming, blood is going everywhere. He's kind of like rears back, pushes back up against the wall of the shack and says, "What did you do that for?"
And Haskell just pushes his hand over his mouth and shows Harley the knife. This is the first time we've seen this knife, and it's really weird looking. It's not one blade, it's two, and they are very, very close together. And Haskell says, "You probably want to save your words, because every time you open your mouth from now on, your face is going to be piss and blood everywhere. And there's only, one doctor in all of London who can sew that up. And you need to have a good long think about how you get back in her good graces. So to avoid those wounds opening up on your face, if you would as much as twitch, I would very much advise you to keep your mouth firmly shut." And Haskell looks around at the general mess and disgustingness. And then he also says, "And for God's sake, have a bath. I know you're a body snatcher, but show some fucking decorum."
I do like the idea of a die roll here, inspired by your conditions. I think when you step outside of the shack, perhaps wiping the blood from your hands or clearly having gotten up to something no good, you see D.I. Fairweather across the way. Do the day move. What are you afraid is going to happen right now?
See, I don't think he gives two shits about Harley.
He does not.
But I think that he will probably use this as pretense to kind of shake me down for something else.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be bullshit, but I feel like he's getting more leverage over me, essentially.
I mean, he's already managed to rope Hargrave House into working on a case for him. Let's have the roll with composure at disadvantage, please.
So I did use my knife, but that was previously. Could I mark that for?
I'll let you have it. You mark it.
Okay. It's a 5.
Very good. He steps up to you. You have the knife. I'm curious, like, how the knife might have been helping you in this situation. Are you trying to present a threatening manner, or what is that all about?
I think that it would be obvious to someone who is as clued up as him that he would see that even though I've sheathed it again, that it has recently been used and I'm really not fussed about using it again.
He says, "Haskell, good to see you. I was wondering if perhaps you were following up on that little fig matter that I brought to your door. Did you find them in that shack? Some of the figs?"
And he looks down at the kind of blood on his wrist, and it's winter and Haskell's kind of grown in a light beard. And he says, "Do excuse me, I just cut myself shaving." But it's interesting you ask about us doing Scotland Yard's work for you. That's curious. I take it the best men weren't available.
He looks at the knife and says, "What do you use that for? Slicing pieces of apple, I suppose."
If they're in season, Constable.
He gets really close to you now. And here I'd like to paint the scene about D.I. Fairweather. We are not currently in Fairweather. It is very cold and miserable. And yet D.I. Fairweather, because of his particular affection for overpriced clothing and accessories, He is not really appropriately dressed, or he looks like he stands out in some way. He sacrifices for his sartorial choices. How so?
I think you'd fully expect someone to be wearing a scarf and their coat pulled up, but he has his shirt is open and he has a silk ascot, which is kind of like a caramel color. It's kind of beautiful and kind of check patterned, and it's just solely inappropriate for this weather.
His shirt, as well as being open, is of a loose fit. The sort of billowing sleeves in the wind of this weather fill up and flap in an unpleasant and chilling way.
His gloves are cashmere. They're not leather. They're not practical. They're because he has soft little dainty hands that he's too afraid to get dirty. Ugh.
It is customary for policemen to wear boots, but the Fairweather's shoes are a bit more informal than what should be noted. And the leather is rather light, more summer shoe than anything.
He's very close to you, Haskell, so that you can smell the cologne wafting off of him. And he says, "You should know that Scotland Yard appreciates Hargrave House's assistance in this matter, Haskell. I hope you don't mind if I stop by sometime soon, or even often." And then he does a very condescending little, "I didn't think you would," and turns and walks off. And you take a condition, the cashmere glove. Who else has a scene they want to pitch?
I have something very small, I think, which is around the same time that this little tete-a-tete is taking place. Very early in the morning, Cecelie is up and hairstyled, well dressed, and she knocks on the door of Dr. Mortimer's quarters.
Yeah, yes, come in.
She opens the door and steps in. Eveline.
Mortimer's quarters are, I'd like to think, maybe next to the laboratory. So down in the basement, down in that sort of sub-layer of Hargrave House. So it's cold in the house upstairs, but it is freezing down here. The room itself isn't inviting. It is pristine, clinical. Everything has its place, from the prosthetic hand that is, the stand where a prosthetic hand usually would be. To a variety of little experiments and a layout of instruments, wooden boxes, vials. There's almost an arcane element to this place, but it's clean, very clean. And Mortimer is shrugging on, sort of buttoning up the very last of her waistcoat. She has deep, almost gouges under her eyes with tiredness. There is great bags. She moses the spectacle, and as you call her name, she freezes and turns. Why, Miss Quinn, what could possibly bring you down here?
Forgive me for bothering you so early in the morning. I had hoped you would be able to help me with something.
But of course. Please, come in. And she's nervous. can see it in the way that she sort of is clasping her hands. Yes, what could I help you with?
I have need of your dog's body, Haskell. I don't suppose you could spare him for an hour or two.
Ah. Of course. Well, pray tell me the matter. I'll pass it on.
It's nothing for you to worry about, my dear.
Now, Miss Quinn. When it comes to Haskell, there is a reason that I am the one that is considered his employer, and I am the one that gives him his orders. If I do not give him his orders, nothing happens. So, maybe as vague as you could want, but I will need to know what it is you intend to do with my dog's body.
Gardening.
Gardening. I shall see if he is free around noon today. Does that fit your scheduling?
No, that'll be far too late. What a dreadful shame. Well, good day, Miss Dr. Mortimer. And she turns and leaves.
As the door closes and Mortimer is left alone, she's very still for a moment. And then her hands just rip across the desk and fly every single potion, jar, and book and piece of paper, everything onto the floor. Just... Haskell will need to clean that up.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other scenes to pitch?
Yes, and I'm about to enfold two things into one, so it might actually run a little longer. Phoebe is in her room, and there's a great whispering that is coming from her mouth as she lays this map, this ley line map of Hargrave House, or where Hargrave House should be, in front of her. And she is rocking back and forth slightly in her chair as she's asking it to reveal something to her, even though she doesn't know what it is, but there's a great pull that she's feeling in this moment, and she's rocking, and she receives a series of images of Haskell and that portrait that he was cleaning of Godfrey Rathmere, and next to it, Cecelie. And there's something important about Cecelie that she's meant to do, and she gathers up the map and exits the room. And Cecelie, where is your room?
I think it's high up in the house, not on the ground floor or the first floor, but not on the very top floor, because obviously that's attic rooms and she's far too important for that. Her quarters take up a fairly large portion of this floor, but the door is fairly nondescript and unmarked, as though to discourage invitation.
And Phoebe lets her feet carry her, though she's never had reason to visit your room before, but she suspects she knows where it might be. And all the while it's like, I'm going. Would you be I'm trying my... And she goes to your room, and you hear two frantic and then slower knocks on the door.
Cecelie is standing at a bookcase she's pushing a slim volume around the maintenance of exotic plants back onto the shelf when she hears the knock, and she turns and just calls, "Enter."
The door opens, and Phoebe does not enter. She stands at the threshold. Miss Quinn, Cecelie?
Ms. Jean-Baptiste, Phoebe.
Yes, hello. So sorry to disturb you at this hour. What time is it? At this hour of the morning. Whatever this hour is. Would you be... I'm so sorry.
Cecelie walks over to a decanter of whiskey, pours 2 glasses, irrespective of the time, and hands one to Phoebe.
She takes it very gingerly and just holds it aloft in front of her. You can see that there's a folded piece of paper tucked under one arm. Thank you. Would you be inclined to come with me somewhere? We're not leaving the house. We might leave the house. We are not leaving the house.
You intrigue me, Phoebe.
Good. I'm glad. I intrigue myself sometimes. I think you have something I need. Did you know Godfrey Rathamere well?
I knew him. It was tedious, pompous, utterly useless.
Mm-hmm. I procured this map, and she gestures with her both hands still holding the glass to what is in her arm. I procured this map from a room where there's a curious device, but it is telling me that you have something that it needs.
One moment. And she crosses this kind of entryway with its bookshelves and other more practical things, and walks into what's clearly a bedroom. And over the bed, there's hanging sort of like almost like a light catcher or a dream catcher, a shattered piece of the orrery reflecting light around the room. And she pulls it down and says, "Creates beautiful images on a new moon, but that's all it really seems to be good for, is beauty. Unless you know it does something else."
I am having a thought that it might. Would that interest you to see what it could do?
It would indeed.
Then bring it. And she just wheels on her heel and begins to go down the stairs.
Cecelie, in one knockback, drinks the whiskey she poured, slams the crystal glass down on a random side table, and follows after Miss Jean-Baptiste.
Unremarked upon is the fact that if Miss Quinn knew Godfrey Rathamere, it would make her well over 100 years old. Noting.
We register and acknowledge this. Do not bring it up.
Fantastic. Out of character, I'm curious what your plan is there, Phoebe.
So I am bringing Cecelie in on my little adventure to manipulate the map room's orrery.
Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, I'm very excited about that. Is that something you're hoping to do in the night phase, or do you want to do it like, before?
No, I'm doing it now. And I'm also kind of incorporating a vulnerable move with Miss Quinn, which is why I'm folding 2 things into one. But it's her. Yes.
Whose vice is in play in said vulnerable move?
Well, I'm
expanding
my
horizons.
horizons.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, good. I like it. I'm into it. Dr. Mortimer, what about you? What's your scene that you'd like to
Well,
have?
now that she's in a perfectly terrible mood, the only thing that would cheer her up in the situation is the mortuary. She's going to go and try and track down the body of Massimo Asani, who was found praying at Solomon's own synagogue from the Nutcracker case.
Indeed. Regrettably, only the most recent victim is still available to be investigated in this manner. And so you can certainly try another avenue of inquiry. The Royal Ballet is closed in the day, of course, and so you can snoop around there. What else do we have lead-wise?
Ooh, I may snoop around the Royal Ballet and fold in. Oh no, because I need to share, and I'm not in the mood to share. I'm in a bad mood.
We also have there is this rabbi who actually brought the case to you, a fellow lover of ballet, also a former member of Hargrave House, so you do have a lot of connections there.
Rabbi Rebecca Solomon.
That's correct, yes.
Then I'll take a visit to her and just see if there's anything else she can shed light on.
Yeah. I think when you step into her synagogue, you see a platform where a Torah scroll would be read aloud, a lamp holding a flame that never dies, wax dribbling down a grand menorah indicates that we are in the Hanukkah season. And let's paint the scene, everyone. What demons are fought here, and what shows these struggles? This, and I'll note, as a reminder to everyone, that this was Rabbi Solomon's specialty at Hargrave House, was demon hunting.
Oh,
but
my
maybe
gosh.
we interpret demons differently in the temple. So
there is a dreidel set off to one side at the back of the synagogue. It is not being shown the proper respect a dreidel usually sort of would be, as an instrument of religion. It is only on closer look and inspection that you see the symbols, Yiddish symbols that would usually take place or take precedent on each side of the dreidel aren't Yiddish. They're a language no human mouth can pronounce, and it almost seems like the dreidel itself is bleeding from where it's been carved. Each letter just tacky with something.
I think off to one side there is a kind of almost a presentation table that slopes up, and it's got what's left of a talith, but kind of a prayer shawl, and it's very tattered, it's very old, and the ink is faded in it, but what hasn't are what look like burn marks in the shape of fingers grasping around one end, and what probably is black blood at the other.
There's a pair of reading glasses that sit not in pride of place and not outside of sight. They're always just within reach. As a retired hunter would, you must always keep your weapons close. Within these glasses, there is a lens that, should you look through them at the correct time, you will see what does not want to be seen. And these glasses are very much attached to the person that owns them.
In one corner of the room, there are 2 comfortable chairs, and on the small table between is a box of tissues. And underneath one of the chairs, where it's been missed while the rabbi cleaned up, there are some balled up and tear-stained. Some demons are more mundane than others.
Eveline, Dr. Solomon says, coming from around the corner as she sees you come, or she's noticed you come in. She is, much as you remember her, a little older perhaps, but you've known her for years. She is not currently dressed in her robes of office, but just a simple. She actually wears suits, and she has the scars of her specialty. She's middle-aged. She has kind of a flinty look. She has scars on her hands and one particularly bad burn scar on her face, which was the result of a very nasty fight with a demon. You, of course, never have given much credit to the whole demon thing, but maybe you do now. I don't know. But in any case, she's most famous in Hargrave House for her possession of a ring that allows her to ensnare and seal away malevolent spirits, and you can see that ring, which she is never parted from, on her hand. And she says, "How go things at Old HH?"
Better than expected. We've only had one visit from the police this month.
Oh, splendid, splendid. I always keep my ear to the ground, and I've heard that you all have made good friends with old D.I. Pettigrew.
Good friends indeed. With friends like him. Oh, we'll never be out of work, I tell you that.
So what's going on with the sculptor business?
Well, that's what I came to ask you. Turns out, our friends at Scotland Yard revealed a little information they maybe shouldn't have done.
Oh.
And I've come to ask you about it. There was a 4th body discovered in a confessional booth. They're claiming it is the work of the sculptor, but I think you might have a better inkling as to whether or not it is, might be, or anything else you might be able to tell me.
I like this very much. You will be able to do the information move. And let me take a look at your conditions and see if they might apply. Most beloved? Hypocrite? I don't think so, but I do think it would be interesting if you tell me how your connections to Rabbi Solomon might be more personal or intimate than we've known previously. I'll let you take the roll with advantage.
The sole reason I am at Hargrave House is because of Rabbi Solomon. We met during a performance, or technically at the after, in the foyer. And I overheard her talking emphatically about the same elements of the dance that I found intriguing. And I just had to know. And it was when Cora's name graced her lips. It was when she spoke with admiration about the way Cora danced that I knew I had found someone who could appreciate the beauty of this art more than anyone else. And I made it my mission that night to befriend her.
Roll with presence with advantage.
Woohoo! Okay. What is my presence? Oh boy. Ooh, sweet nothing. Oh, it is only a 7. So
We'll come back to this in a moment. Haskell, I'm going to give you the opportunity for one more scene for your day phase, if you have anything in mind.
Yeah, again, very pointedly not helping with anything. I believe we're going to a soiree this evening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be taking the doctor. I think I need to go and pick up some threads.
You're sort of the guest of the Dapper Boy, yes? If I remember
Sure
correctly.
am, yeah.
Fantastic. We love that. Do you want to just keep this in? Do you want to just narrate something, or do you want to have a scene here? What are we doing here?
Yeah, so I think I'll have a quick scene because I think everyone else has got more pressing matters of what they might bring into this world, possibly. So just we're kind of Savile Row, probably.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And Haskell is, still got a bloodied sleeve and still in a kind of a heavy work coat. His kind of billycock hat is not what you'd probably associate with a distinguished gentleman, but he pauses outside a wig shop, and he opens the door and walks in and approaches the elderly lady behind the counter, and he reaches into his coat and slides a small box across the counter, and she kind of looks in it very keenly, and we can see what it is. It's 2 very big Cuban cigars. And she looks more than happy with those. And she kind of clicks her fingers, and then from out of nowhere, a kind of a raft of assistants come in and start dressing Haskell. But they kind of take off his work coat. They put a wig on him and a fake brown moustache to go over his kind of like auburn beard. He looks quite strange. There's a hat with a peacock feather in it. There is what looks like a summer overcoat. They basically make him very quickly into something resembling a cosmopolitan dandy. And he nods his approval to the lady behind the counter. And she says, "I hope you'll find it to your liking, Mr. Mordrake." And he slips out of a back door and straight into a fitting room of another shop, which this one backs onto. And he walks up to the counter and says, "2 garments for Mordrake, please." And is given 2 large boxes, a men's and a woman's. And I think that's all we need to say about that.
Splendid. So we're going to do the map room move that was unlocked some time ago. When you have the cosmic passage marked and manipulate the map room's orrery, you get to roll with sensitivity. Give me the scene, Ms. Jean-Baptiste. What does this look like?
As they enter into the map room, Phoebe first with Cecelie in tow, I think Phoebe looks at the orrery, this hulking, strange device that tries to rotate and doesn't really do it well. Do you travel much, Miss Quinn?
Oh, yes. Every now and then I get tired of London.
And Phoebe steps a bit further into the room and holds out a hand to you, more towards the item that she has not taken from you yet. Where have you gone?
There's a rather lovely observatory up in the north of the country, the north of Newcastle. The astronomer there admires me, as do many, and allows me to gaze upon the stars. I like to visit there. And she hands over the shattered piece of the orrery.
I don't like the north. It's very cold. And she bends at the waist, looking at where this might fit. and she sees it opens and closes, leaving a slight hole where this is meant to slot into, where the pieces are meant to click and turn over and then continue to rotate. And it just keeps opening and closing, almost like an eye blinking, looking for its missing piece. And so she has to wait on the timing of it. And I think just so. And without much grace or aplomb, just kind of shoves the missing piece into where she thinks it's meant to go.
Fantastic. You are going to roll with sensitivity, and because you are using the orrery piece, if that gets marked, it's technically speaking your item is Quinn, but as long as it gets marked, you get to roll with advantage as well.
I shall mark it.
Fantastic.
So,
This should be a great roll. Sensitivity and advantage, so it doesn't get much better than this.
okay, so that is 12 on the dot.
Oh, very good indeed. Let's keep reading here. It says, on a hit, an alternate version of you is transported into this reality. You get to choose one from the list and then describe the most notable difference in your parallel self's appearance or bearing. Writing the worlds and sending them home is as simple as returning the orrery to its correct alignment. You have several choices there, Phoebe. Which one do you want?
Their version of Hargrave House failed to defeat the mastermind yours is currently facing to dire consequence. They reveal a mastermind clue, the significance of which they didn't grasp in time.
Oh, fantastic. We'll come back to this. Rabbi Solomon is aware of the body that was not reported in the papers. And she says, I've been looking into it, and I've discovered this. And she finds she has a picture, a pencil drawing of a fountain. She says, now, I found this. Well, I don't really want to discuss how this was brought into my possession, only that I sometimes consort with the enemy from time to time, and from time to time the enemy can be useful.
You've been talking to the police?
No.
The military?
No.
My ex-husband.
Ms. Jean-Baptiste can explain it to you in more detail, Dr. Mortimer. For now, just know that this entity was happy to lead me to this. And she shows you this pencil drawing of this fountain. And importantly, all of the figures in the fountain, it's a sort of Renaissance kind of thing, right? All of the figures are all men depicted in the manner of the sculptor's victims. That's your clue. And as you're looking at this, and as she's sort of explaining to you, like making the connections for you in case you aren't able to figure it out, there is a noise from the rear of the temple, kind of in the back sort of administrative area, a sort of loud banging or slamming. She says, probably kids messing around in the alley. I'll be right back.
Oh, don't go, here, just in case. She'll reach into the cloak and give her the stake that I believe is haunted by monks that she carries around with her.
Do you
Just in
expect
case.
me to find a vampire back there, Dr. Mortimer?
Vampire. No, simply it works quite well as a club.
I'm impressed, actually, that you have this on you. Are you perhaps coming around to the Hargrave House way of thinking about the world?
Well, and as she says that, she pulls out the fangs of the vampire that someone else quite kindly gave her. I must say that my beliefs have been challenged, but I remain resolute.
Right.
There is a scientific explanation for all of this, and I will get to the bottom of it.
Indeed you will. And she has the stake, and she says, I'll be right back. And
No worries.
She goes to the back while you're looking at the drawing. Let's continue on with our orrery scene. How interesting. You're getting a mastermind clue from your this other version of you. I'm curious. I'd like to hear from both of you since you're both there. How is this version of Ms. Jean-Baptiste different?
The primary thing that I think is evident to both Cecelie and Phoebe immediately is that it's not a miss that is summoned. The person that exits is wearing trousers and a waistcoat and a fuzzy, within the fuzzy embrace of a cloak, and is looking at the orrery, I think, with intense curiosity, and then at Phoebe, and immediately recognizing something afoot.
I'm going to roleplay that, but I do want to hear from Ms. Quinn.
Mhm.
What other differences are there?
I think that while Ms. Jean-Baptiste has a tendency to remain externally composed while a tempest rages within, this other Jean-Baptiste has an internal composure which is belied by the tempest that displays in their bearing and appearance.
He's standing on the other side of the orrery looking at you, Ms. Jean-Baptiste, and says, how is this possible?
I would think you have some idea.
I had a theory, of course. I can see them around you. You and I, we are one and the same, are we not?
Phoebe, are you...
Franklin.
I see.
So what is this about? Is it about him?
Who's him?
The King in Blue.
And Phoebe passes a glance over to Cecelie.
He looks at Cecelie and says, and who is this?
Oh, Cecelie Quinn.
And then he looks at you again, Phoebe, and says very quietly, you must stay away from her. You must stay away from her. She is the consort of the King in Blue.
Oh, no. We have no King in Blue here.
And
No.
I am a consort to no one.
And also that.
Listen to me. I don't know what's going on where you are, but I know what's happened where I am. And I'm here to tell you that the King in Blue was able to claim all because he captured the heart of our Cecelie Quinn.
Captured the heart of her?
And I think the orrery is beginning to change and shift and move, and your time is about to be over with him. But your clue is that Ms. Quinn was important to Theodore Brathwaite's plans in their universe.
Huh.
I think I say, Master Jean-Baptiste, you are wrong. But I do like the name you chose, Franklin.
And he just sort of shakes his head in confusion, and you can see him fading away, going back to his place. But as he goes, he says, "Will we speak again? Will you call me again?"
Oh, if I can. I'm not quite sure how I did it this time, but I will try.
You must stop him. Whatever you do not let him do what he did to us. And you will notice then, just as he disappears, he has at his throat a tattoo of a sapphire and disappears.
Cecelie, did you see the... It's fine.
Wow, that was fascinating.
Right. Yes.
Just how many of you
Enjoy
are there?
Well, I rather think, and then she looks at the orrery, at all of the little dots and places. Untold.
Would that... She steps closer to Phoebe and kind of lowers her voice. Would that mean that there are untold versions of me?
Oh, Cecelie, I think there can truly only ever be one of you.
Good cut there. And Dr. Mortimer, it's been some time. You've been just staring at this illustration, and Rabbi Solomon has not come back yet. What do you do?
Well, I'm going to follow in her footsteps and just head to where the noise came from, in which the direction she went in.
It's very dark back here, just a single candle under a cloche sitting on a table, but not so dark that you can't see Rabbi Solomon's body. The face has been badly mutilated, just leaving the teeth clenched tight like the Nutcracker.
I run to the body. Is she breathing? Is she alive?
She's quite dead. But from the darkness, you hear a voice. "Oh, Dr. Mortimer, I don't interfere with your work, so don't interfere with mine. And then there's a slam of a door, presumably as they run away.
Oh, you disrespectful coward! And she, oh God, there's no saving her. Oh God. She considers it. She runs a finger through her hair. Rabbi Solomon's hair was something that she always took care of at Hargrave House. I remember that. But I couldn't. I couldn't, not to her. Damn.
You do see that ring on her hand, though. The ring that is the tool of her trade when she was in Hargrave House.
Oh, the ring that supposedly repelled demons? No such thing. No such thing. However, Phoebe might like it. And she got it at Hargrave House, therefore it is property of Hargrave House. And she will slip it off the finger as gently as humanly possible. And I don't think she knows any rites of the Jewish dead. But in a sort of respectful manner, she just closes Rabbi Solomon's hands over her chest and closes what's left of her eyes. And then steps back and... Oh, I'm sorry, my friend. But believe you me, I will catch him.
That concludes our day phase. You can add Rabbi Solomon's ring to your personal quarters. It ended up being a longer day phase than I thought, but it's okay. It was a good one. Let's go ahead and transition into Dusk. We'll start by, let me take a quick look at moves that might be triggered in the Dusk phase. I don't feel great about the Resurrectionists tonight. Given Haskell's...
Hard same. I'm going to say hard same.
So, maybe next night phase. However, the Ghost of Hargrave House. Haskell, you can do that if you wish.
Seems like a nice opportunity to have a bit of orrery in my personal quarters.
Fantastic. That's a great use of this move, by the way. So you can always kind of like power game through the orrery situations. Awesome. And let's keep going here. I would ask you if you want to do a Hargrave House night phase or a London night phase, but I think I'm sure you're going to want to do a London night phase.
Time to meet Sally. I think
this is it. This is the last night phase of Catcher, so you don't
exactly that.
In which case, I want to go around the table and see what everyone's interested in doing. We have 2 threats that are ready to be resolved. My sense, Cecelie, is that you're the only one resolving that one. You've kind of taken that one on, the Reaver's Last Victim, rather. So unless you have any other thoughts, I kind of know what you're doing tonight. Fantastic. And what about you, Haskell?
Well, I'm the one with the invite. So we're going to head to this exhibition / party / soiree with this strange young man.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going to be taking the doctor to accompany me. But I would like a brief dressing up montage.
Oh, okay, sure. We can have that be the first thing. Yeah. And because you got a really good result on your answer question, if I remember correctly. And so, it was 12. So the resolution won't be particularly hard. There might be a die roll or 2, but it will be pretty straightforward otherwise. Ms. Jean-Baptiste, what are you doing tonight?
Well, I'm not invited to the party. And I'm not quite sure what Cecelie is doing, but that's fine. So I think for my night phase, I'm going to... Well, I can't even say for sure because I'm going to wander the streets of London, stretching my senses out, to try and find something out about the pigs situation.
Oh, yeah.
But I
yeah,
don't
the
know
figs.
what's going to happen. So
I love that. My favorite move in the game. And Dr. Mortimer, I assume you're okay with going to the party.
It depends on what Haskell has bought me, but we will see, I'm sure.
Fantastic. Very good then. I don't think we have any unresolved Janus Mask prompts, and so I will go ahead and select our unseen for tonight. I think we're going to do... No. A Night at the Grand Guignol. In particular, we're going to do A Night at the Grand Guignol, the Baker's Son. Everyone does prompt 1. Prompt 2 will be Matt. Prompt 3 will be Wren. And prompt 4 will be Michelle. The night phase. A night at the Grand Guignol. Our show is called The Baker's Son. Every class of people in London is represented in the audience at the Theatre Grand Guignol, an import from Paris. They have come to watch the newest production, The Baker's Son, a story filled with romance, heartbreak, and bucketfuls of blood. Everyone, as the limelights pop to life and the crimson curtain is raised, what do we see as our eyes scan the stage that tells us this is the story of a humble baker's son?
On the workbench that's in front of the ovens, which bears many scars, there are the loading peels laid out in front. And at the end of each peel, there is a small pot, a small glass, and in each one is a razor blade that is there for slashing the ears into baguettes.
The backdrop is the windows of the bakery cut out and look as if looking out over London, through which you can see mannequins have been stood at the door as if a line for bread is forming. The backwards name of the bakery carved into the window, and each mannequin that lines up outside is dressed differently. Some in rags, some are posh and pampered, as if representing the very people that have come to watch themselves.
The stage is dressed with many, many, many loaves of bread, and in fact, it was a gimmick of the promotion of this new production that it was real bread baked by local bakers. And as the curtain rises, that scent of delicious baked bread wafts over the audience in a way which is charming and delightful to the more high class members of the audience and makes the less wealthy clutch their stomachs to stop them from audibly grumbling.
And as the person on stage is doing this work and preparing this bread, you can see in his dress that it's not someone of great affluence. There are little holes and tears artfully done to make sure that they are seen between the apron that covered in flour. There's flour on his face, and he hums a simple little song, one that is common and known amongst children, but seems to bring him some comfort.
All right then, Haskell and Dr. Mortimer, let's have your getting ready montage.
So I think that we begin in Dr. Mortimer's room, and Haskell has got 2 boxes that are open. In fact, 1 box actually. I think Haskell is already dressed in his incredibly clean, and he actually cuts quite the dash, I think, scrubbing up quite nicely. He's wearing a 3-piece suit, and he has a double-breasted coat that's kind of hanging on the stand. And he reveals the evening dress that the Doctor should be wearing, which is a 3-piece suit, immaculately tailored to her form, and with a peacock feather brooch that will accompany it. And he says, I take it this will be to your satisfaction, Mum?
She deftly admires the seams, the cut, and just feels the fabric, weighs it almost. This is very good quality.
He says, cheap to those who can afford it, Mum, very expensive to those who cannot.
Indeed. And I think almost unthinkingly, the Doctor just begins to undo the day's waistcoat. There are spatters of blood on the cuffs of her shirt from where Rabbi Solomon, to her God rest her soul, she tried to help. And as she just undoes the buttons of the waistcoat and flings it off to some corner, she just pulls off the tie, takes off the shirt.
Haskell turns his back and doesn't leave the room and says, Mom, Miss Yarborough, did she suffer?
Greatly. Exsanguination is not by any means a quick death. It would have taken her several hours to die. She would have been in pain. She would have been alone, and she would have been frightened. I would like to tell you something otherwise, Haskell, but you know I do not lie to you.
I can count on as much, Mum.
Right. We should get going. Oh! I almost forgot. Ms. Quinn called for you today. Said she wanted you to help her with some gardening.
What a good transition. Ms. Quinn, the listed opportunity that you've unlocked on the Reaver's last victim is to resolve the threat by finding his remains and letting his family lay him to rest. But I gather you have something else in mind. What do we see you doing?
I think we see Cecelie standing in that park near the Pharaoh's house, casting her eye over the flower beds at this time of year. Nothing is growing, but everything has been neatly and carefully tended to, trimmed back, no weeds, except for one patch of dirt in which sticks and dried up twigs are sticking out at all angles, as though hurriedly cut and grabbed and pulled. And it looks messy. And she casts her eye over the mess a bit and tuts. But she knows her limitations, and she's not convinced that she would quite have the skill to tidy this up as it deserves. So she takes note of the location, and then turns and begins walking towards the home of Mrs. Farrow.
Splendid. Ms. Jean-Baptiste, as you wander the city, letting your consciousness spread, in some sense you're letting the dark entities that are always near you kind of spread and reach out a little bit in their way. They always love these little outings. They always love the opportunity to drink in the filth and the blood and the evil that is squirreled away in the city. And right now, London is a city that is positively drenched in blood. And they are getting their lives, so to speak. I'm curious how you experience this.
Phoebe can always feel the presence of them. It's not like a hand on the shoulder. It's like fingers in between her ribs. It's like a grip at the base of her spine, trying to tug her, drag her attention towards this or that. Take me here, bring me with you. And she has grown very tired of fighting it all the time. Sometimes she gives in a little, just enough to make them ease, so that she can do something else with her time. She doesn't feel like she has quite a lot of it.
Back at the Baker's Son, Act 1. Matt, please describe Act 1, in which the Baker's son, a young man named Daniel, falls in love with a woman, Dahlia, who he cannot have.
The staging of Act 1 centers on the set of the bakery, which has been constructed on a revolve. And what splits the revolve is the window of the baker's shop. And as it turns slowly, and it creaks as the 8 stagehands are pulling it from either side, we see facing upstage Dahlia on the outside of the window looking in, and as we revolve around, we see the baker's son working slavishly away, putting bread out, putting cream cakes out in the window for her to see. He knows she passes at the same time every morning, and he wants to impress her. And as the stage keeps going slowly round, we see her more keen to see him, looking for him, perhaps when he's not in the shop. But we see him never being able to step away from the ovens, never being able to step away from the overbearing father who's forcing him to work longer and harder. And as the music swells and the melodrama increases, the revolve stops, and the son puts his hand against the glass and walks away, tired, after another shift ends. But then we see on the other side of the window the spotlight catch Dahlia's face with a flowery handprint on the glass.
Haskell and Dr. Mortimer, your boots crunching in the snow, you approach this warehouse where this grand exhibit is supposed to be taking place. Jenny Johnston is with you, as are a few of the seamsters and seamstresses that helped put this together. I guess they got complimentary invitations, unclear. But they've gone out of their way to dress their best, and they're all a little excited, if a little unnerved about what this is all about. Jenny, however, will break away from them and very quietly say to the two of you, "So what's the plan then for catching Sally No-Face?"
The plan is not necessarily to catch, dear Jenny. It is to come to terms with. She has no one. She has never been understood. I think we might be able to lure her out of her ways with a few kind words. And if need be, a dagger and a cane. But that will be a last resort, I'm sure. What do you think, Haskell?
We do have a degree of leverage, shall we say, Mum.
As you approach this warehouse, you will hear music, a string quartet perhaps. Certainly you hear violin and cello and music wafting out onto the street. And there's an old street person who kind of stumbles by, and they say, "Ah, that damn racket! They've been playing for days!" And they stumble along their way. The boy, who's dressed in an outfit of beautiful sort of silver, accented with what I can only describe as tinsel, says, "Ah, my new employee and his old employer. Wonderful. Right this way. My employer awaits."
I think you hear an audible crack as Mortimer clenches her jaw. Just... Anything I should be informed of before we head in, Haskell?
No contracts were signed, Mum, but it does seem like I have entered into a complicated chain of employment.
Complicated is certainly one word for it.
It'll get us through the door, Mum.
Lead on.
Ms. Jean-Baptiste, let's have your die roll. Let's read it here. It says, "A beacon in the dark. When you walk the streets of London at night, your consciousness spreading across the city like a vast spider web. Please go ahead and roll with sensitivity."
Oh, it's not good. It's not good. It's a 6.
You are walking with no... I imagine on these walks you never have any particular place in mind. You just sort of go where you're drawn. And you find yourself quite suddenly on a poorly lit street in Shoreditch. Indeed, you see the dark facade of the Figs Pie Shop. I'm sure that was no accident. Indeed, you hear a scraping sound. A scraping of metal on cobbles. Miss Quinn, as you approach the Pharaoh home, coming from the opposite way, bundled up in warm coats, trimmed with fur, are Mrs. Brathwaite and D.I. Fairweather. She says, "Miss Quinn, what a surprise to run into you here."
Good evening.
She looks up. "Oh." Looking at the house. "I see." D.I. Fairweather says, "Miss Quinn, don't you think you've tormented this poor family quite enough for one lifetime?"
Was it not your colleagues who failed to find the killer of her dear son?
"Ah, that was before my time. I can hardly be blamed."
And is it you who is paying the young nurse who tends to Mrs. Farrow? For I believe it is I.
They look at each other and smile. Mrs. Brathwaite says, "Miss Quinn, what do you care of all this? What do you care of these miserable, stinking streets, of these people, all of whom are so far beneath you? You should come with us, out to my home in the country. You should come to a place where people will appreciate you.
For what purpose do you take a young woman and a policeman to your country home, may I ask?
So that we can sit in a circle and drink spiced rum and conspire about how we're going to take over the world. Obviously, Miss Quinn.
I don't need to conspire in order to take over the world.
And they smile again, and they bid you good evening. Continue down the sidewalk. Let's go back to the Theatre Grand Guignol. Wren, please describe Act 2, in which Daniel impotently fights back against the forces that prevent him from being with Dahlia.
What transpires is somewhat of a classic scene. We have Daniel and his father who is telling him actively, passionately, that this is where Daniel should be, here in the shop, as it was his and his father's before, and Dahlia is a woman of a different class than him. He cannot expect for her to lower herself to this place. And mirrored is Dahlia speaking to her mother much less passionately. Her mother, who is telling her with some strict regard that no, this fascination with the baker's son is passing at best. She is engaged and shall be married henceforth. And so, in a pub, we see Daniel and the man that Dahlia is meant to be married. And again, the voices rage, raising, arguing over this woman who's not even present at the moment, but both of these men deciding that they have the right to her, no matter what she may think otherwise. And Daniel, of course, loses because this man has more money and more sway. And he is a simple baker's son with little to his name, not even the shop, not yet.
Jenny, the seamstresses, they're very excited. You're in this like little vestibule area that is quite short and narrow and dark even. It's been kind of made dark by blackout curtains. So you can only, and there's just a little bit of light coming in from the street. It's quite dim. And then there's a door that goes into the actual exhibit itself, which is the main portion of the warehouse. And Jenny and the others file in. Dr. Mortimer, you're going in. We'll describe what you see in a moment. But Haskell, you don't get that far. You feel a sharp kick at the back of your knee, bringing you down to one knee. And the boy is staring down at you as you've been knocked down. He smiles. He's wearing really beautiful cashmere gloves. And he removes them one by one. But instead of the sort of smooth, unblemished hand of an adolescent, instead there is a small hand that is lined with tough skin, maybe even a couple of liver spots starting to show. A roughness, I'd say. And then he reaches into his own mouth and pulls out a set of false teeth, revealing a set of yellowed brown teeth clenched tight. And then he moves up and peels off his smooth adolescent face to reveal the face of a man with a beard and a wild look. He's not a boy, just a very small man. And he says, "Oh, I've been waiting to unwrap this gift for some time." Meanwhile, Dr. Mortimer, you are inside the exhibit. Music flowing. Servers in formal wear with glasses of champagne milling about. All of the guests are wooden mannequins that have been dressed in beautiful clothing, posed all around the room in conversation, some with their heads even thrown back in laughter. Some of the mannequins just have smooth, blank wooden faces, but some of the mannequins have human faces carefully arranged over them. In the center of the room is a string quartet playing furiously. They are playing furiously. Their hands are raw. Their faces are all wrapped in bandages, seeping blood.
God.
I want you to make the night move. What do you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve?
I'm afraid that one of these mannequins isn't a mannequin at all. And I'm afraid Sally will come for my face.
Indeed, indeed. And you are the most beloved, so you're going to be at disadvantage here. I do want you to roll with composure.
Oh, good. What was my composure?
Composure's good, at least.
Okay, composure's good. So that is a 4.
Indeed. We shall come back to this. Oh, I forgot to tell you how it's worse. Well, you're going to find out, aren't you?
How is it worse?
You're going to find out, aren't you? It's just the terminus of what you've imagined, essentially. We'll come back to this. Miss Quinn, I think you find the front door of the Farrow home open. What do you do?
She enters into the home of Mrs. Farrow and into the front room where she is now always to be found, as she can no longer, under her own steam, stand and walk around the house. And she stops at the glass pane into the living room door and places a hand and checks. Yes, the nurse has left. And then lets herself in quietly and sits beside the deathbed of Mrs. Farrow.
Out of character, do you want her to be lucid or not?
She can be lucid-ish.
She looks up at you, her eyes squinting, and she says, "Julia, is that you?" I thought you were lost to me. First you, and then Anton. And now, tell me, poor William. But you're back. You're back. And I don't even care if this is just the addled mind of a dying woman. I'm so happy to see you again.
Cecelie, with her gloved hand, takes Mrs. Farrow's hand and says, I've come with some wonderful news. Anton's body was found.
It's a perfect cut. Our last stop at the Theatre Grand Guignol. Michelle, please describe Act 3, in which Daniel engages in a desperate action to get what he wants. The final moment, just before the curtain falls, should be very bloody. That's what people paid for.
We see the stage, the revolvers turn to the interior of the bakery, the lighting indicating it is the middle of the night. And we see Daniel desperately clutching Dahlia's hands and pleading with her. These barriers between us, these divisions of class, they are meaningless. We can overcome them. We can be together. We see Dahlia's reticence. We see scenes of her making her choice between the high-class gentleman she should be with, or going back to peer through that bakery window at the low-class gentleman who she can't help but keep watching. And we see the baker resolve to bring down these divisions of class that stand between us. And we see that final scene in which that wealthy gentleman's throat is slit. Dahlia's mother's throat is slit. The policemen who come to arrest him, their throats are slit. But of course, no play so revolutionary could be allowed to be put on if this was allowed to be the ending. And so it is that we see Dahlia enter into the bakery and see what Daniel has wrought. And she weeps and she weeps and she grabs him by the lapels and she says, how could you do this? But he is crazed with bloodlust. He has no words to give her. And so she shoves him headfirst into one of those ovens and she slams the door and the stage revolves. And the lighting state changes to show the passage of time as the stage creaks round. And we see Dahlia step out onto the shop front, which now reads Dahlia's Flowers. And she smiles and arranges a bouquet in the front, and the curtain drops.
Bravo, bravo. Ms. Jean-Baptiste, I'm still in the driver's seat because of your miss right now. You find yourself drawn inexorably to the shop. You go in through the back, but not into the shop, but rather into a basement access. And you find yourself in the basement of the Figs Pie Shop. Walls covered in streaks of dried blood, a preponderance of bones with bits of meat still on them. Written on the walls in ash, all praise the great He-Sow. There is an altar. It is a naked body, the head removed and replaced with that of a pig, posed as the figurehead of the shrine. Human teeth and tusks are scattered around in the shape of pagan sigils. And you hear that scraping of metal on bone and you see Obert the Blade in his long, bloody apron, smiling his thin, oily smile. His knife, his butcher's knife, is enormous. It's Final Fantasy scale, very large blade he drags behind him. There are only two states of being. A piglet, suckling at the teat of Mok, swollen and happy. Or food for the trough. Which will you be today, I wonder? Will you join me at the breast of the great he-sow, or shall we grind up your blood and bones for the slop? What do you do, Ms. Jean-Baptiste?
Phoebe, she almost doesn't hear what he says fully. She is enwrapped in this space, but more so, she can hear them. Even though they died before they were put into the ovens and baked into those pies, she can hear the souls that were killed, hear them screaming as if they're on fire. And she turns to Obert and looks through him first and then at him. Aren't you an interesting little thing? This god is not unfamiliar to me, though I did not think she had such reverent worship here. And I think she's going to step towards Obert. And aware of the blade, but much like with Sally, not seeming wary of it, and is going to put a hand on the side of his face. I am no suckling pig. And I am no meat that you grind. Perhaps we can find a different use for you and I.
That feels like a perfect cut. I'm giving you a condition, the great he-sow. Haskell, this is the sculptor. Per the rules of the game, you can't kill or capture him, but you can survive this moment. What do you do?
I would like to try and lead him out of the place away from the doctor. And if that means launching myself into his body and through the window, then that's what I'll do.
It's the night move. What do you think is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid that I'll go through the window without him, and the door will be open to do the good doctor a mischief.
Oh, it's worse than that. He'll take the moment to dispatch you while you're lying in the snow, and then go deal with the doctor. This is going to be with oh no, that's not right. think it's vitality for sure. Because of the gloves that he was wearing, I'm putting you at disadvantage.
Of course. Okay. I still got 2 6s and a 1, so that's a 7.
Fantastic. I'll actually give you control of the scene. I just want to know what it looks like when you get him out of there. He will escape, and you'll just get kind of cut up a little bit and take a condition and commiserate with that.
Yeah, I think that I managed to lift him off his feet relatively easily, but he's kind of fighting me as he goes. And
he's very small.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Haskell's very old. And kind of he's fighting to get free, clawing at my neck and face, and kind of spinning round. And I just go for a window, go through this kind of like plate glass window. And it's not high, it's like the first floor or whatever. But I think Haskell kind of comes to as snow is falling on his face, and he kind of looks to where the sculptor's body should be next to him, and all he sees is this kind of like bloodied snow angel that's leading off into the distance.
I think that's the problem right there, Dr. Mortimer, is the sound coming from the vestibule. It causes you to not notice that one of the mannequins has, wearing a black satin gown, has stepped forward from behind you quite quietly. We see the glint of the silver scalpel in the candlelight, and just a single beautiful, artful, she would say, line of blood across your neck.
May I please use a Janus mask?
You may indeed put on the Janus mask. Past or future?
Future. The darkened threshold.
Oh, read it to us.
Narrate a scene in which you destroy a professional rival.
Fantastic. Your opportunity unlocked here is to empathize and bring them in peacefully, so keep that in mind. But think about your scene. I want to check in with Ms. Quinn, wrap up Ms. Quinn's scene with Mrs. Farrow. Mrs. Farrow she thinks you're her missing daughter. Poor Mrs. Farrow, by the way. My goodness.
William found him.
The body has been found?
William found Anton. She found him before anyone else.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yes.
When is the funeral?
Well, it's complicated, you know. Scotland Yard want to be involved and so on, but William asked me to tell you. He knows you're ill, and he promises that Anton will rest forever, nourishing a field of flowers.
She takes your hand, and this is perhaps not the first time you've felt the shudders of the dying. Do you sit with her while she passes?
Yes.
What is that like, immortal?
When someone is dying, their breathing changes. It becomes labored and rattling. It becomes harder and harder to keep air going into your lungs. And Cecelie watches that fight for life, the way that mortal people must fight and fight to the end. And she watches and listens as that sound finally ceases. And she stands and she leaves.
Fantastic. Instead, Dr. Mortimer, Please describe how you call out Sally and deal with this situation.
As she moves, almost mannequin-like in the darkness, and twists towards Mortimer, that glint of the scalpel catches her eye, and she turns. Is she wearing a mask? Or is she wearing a face?
She's wearing a mask, but it's a wooden mask with no eye holes. It to look like a mannequin face.
It is really you. Here in the flesh. Am I really so lucky as to be in your presence?
I'm very sorry.
Why? You have nothing to apologize for. Your work is art. The simplicity of the cuts, the cleanness of the incisions, all of it is beautiful.
Yes.
All of it.
Yes. Yes, it is, isn't it? You appreciate my work, then?
Appreciate, my dear. And she'll step forward and place one hand behind Sally No Face's back and the other on the hand with the scalpel outstretched as if about to lead her into a dance. My dear, you are all London has spoken of. Your work across the front pages. You are indescribably beautiful.
Yes. Yes, I knew. I always knew that one day people would show my name in big letters again. I knew that one day I would return to my place at the very apex of art, of beauty, of creativity. You and I, we are at the zenith of our powers, are we not?
That is your mistake. That is where you are wrong. You have not retaken your place, you have taken mine. And what is mine should not be touched. And with that, she is going to grab at the scalpel hand and drive it into Sally's own neck and slice.
Oh, interesting. I'll give it to you. It's not a proper resolution, but that doesn't matter because you're getting credit for the Reaper's Last Victim resolution. And I love it. And she collapses. I think she kind of dies the way she'd want to, really, at the end, surrounded by her admirers. Even your actions are those of someone who's incredibly jealous of her talents. There's a comfort in that, a dying comfort.
As she slowly slips away, Mortimer hums a little tune. Poor old Sally, trapped in a fire, her looks burned up without a trace. If you're lovely, with fate most dire, she'll come and take your lovely face. And as she sings that, she almost wanders away from the body uninterested and is looking around these mannequins for the face of Clara Yarborough.
Perfect. We'll end it right there. You do get rewards for resolving your 2 threats. The first of the rewards from the Reaver's Last Victim is the Mask of Care, a new aspect of the Janus mask, which can be used at any time and only once by one of you. When used, each hunter narrates a scene where someone they helped before does them a kindness. I'll transfer that to the character keeper in due time. Strictly speaking, you didn't resolve Sally No Face, but I liked the scene, and so I'm going to go with it and say that you have the following options from rewards. Sally No Face's wooden mask. Add it to your personal quarters. Sally No Face's scalpel. One of these mannequins. A victim, I'm going to say Clara Yarborough's face. Or 2 of you can choose, if you wish, a memento from the investigation. Who wants what?
I would like the scalpel, please.
I would like the wooden mask.
I'm absolutely not taking Clara's face. That is way too ghoulish. So I will take. In fact, no. I'll ask Wren to give me something for my personal quarters, please.
Okay. I had a terrible thought. I'm gonna give you that young old man's false teeth. Sorry. Oh, but I'll ask you to give me one.
I think I'd like to give you the bandages that were wrapping the face of the string quartet, but it's like a like the Turin shroud. It's got a face on it. And you could probably use it for some cosmic bullshit.
Thank you. Cosmic.
Fantastic.
I've completely forgot and was out of character. I was so enraged. Would I be able to take something for the child from Sally?
Yes, of course.
Thanks. Thank you. Big fan.
Fantastic. All right. Let us see here. Okay. Dawn questions are next. Everyone's getting credit for resolving a threat, so you get 1 XP for that. I think I heard echoes from everyone. Is there anyone who's not sure if they got one? Or
I don't really feel like I did. I was kind of trying, but I don't really think I got one. So I'm not that bothered about not taking XP for that.
Yeah. Maybe I was just remember thinking like, oh yeah, I feel like they're all hitting echoes. But fantastic. Let's keep going then. Haskell, did you subtly express sexual desire for your employer in the way you dressed them or served them?
I think I did.
What?
Unbeknownst to Dr. Mortimer. That's the point, though. It's subtle. Did you engage in a petty reprisal? Yes, you did.
You could say that, yeah.
Yes, you did. So you picked up 3 XP there. Let's keep going with Dr. Mortimer. Did you engage in romantic or emotional behavior at odds with your aloof, logical exterior?
I think the outburst in my quarters might be.
I agree completely. And you also got the Dana Scully question with your interactions with the rabbi. Ms. Quinn, did you secretly show a vulnerable side to someone? Yes, you did with Mrs. Farrow, right? Did you express a clear preference for the beautiful over the mundane?
That's what I was going with wanting to make the flower bed beautiful.
Oh, perfect. Yep, love it. Ms. Jean-Baptiste, did you perform a ritual? I'm going to say yes. I actually think... I don't know if it was a ritual. It felt ritualistic. The orrery, actually, I suppose, really kind of qualifies. But I also thought the scene with Obert had ritualistic overtones. Were you intimate with the dark entity because it felt good? Yeah, Obert, right? So that works for me. And I think that's everything for the dawn phase.
Memory is the servant.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take a pair of cashmere gloves.
Fantastic. Fantastic. They're very wee. They're very small.
I've got a message to send to someone.
Indeed. Thank you for the reminder there. Well, with all that said, I don't want to keep you too long, but I would love to do Stars and Wishes. You all are just so great. My goodness, what a fantastic session this was. I had one thing in mind. I had like an idea in mind for how I thought this was going to go. Like I was going to have this like shorter day phase, little housekeeping, and then we would go to this longer night phase. And the night phase was a little longer than I would normally do, but the day phase was just so good, and all the things you all were doing, the stories you were telling, the scenes you were having, it was all just A+. I would watch this TV show. I would in a minute, and it's just stars all around. Just so many fantastic moments. All the interactions with D.I. Fairweather and Mrs. Brathwaite from both Ms. Quinn and Haskell were terrific and very, very fun to role play. I like that we're getting more of that story. I had great fun getting to finally play the sculptor, which is one of my favorite characters to play in the game, and so that was really fun to
He's awful.
unleash him a little bit. And so I appreciate everyone kind of pressing into the danger so that I could kind of do those things. And just my wish, I'm very excited to see where this thing goes with the Cult of the Pig and with the Hisao and all that stuff. Wren and kind of what Ms. Jean-Baptiste's connection might be to all of it. And yeah, this is just a really good time. I think we're killing it, you know.
I've got like one note. I've got a ton of stars to give out, but I'll kind of echo most of what Jason said there. But there was just one thing that I noticed. It was quite a small thing, but like how everyone's tying the stuff we built already into the story, into things. And there was, before we'd even left Hargrave House, well, some of you late risers, I should say, like Phoebe mentioned the portrait that Haskell was working on, and then we had the map, and then we had the orrery, and I was like, well, these would be so easily forgettable, mark for advantage, don't worry about it things in other games, but like they're just core to like what's going on, and they feel like they don't feel like little kind of Easter eggs we're kind of pointing at and go, oh, remember this, they're actually kind of fundamental to what's happening, and they're telling their own story. I really like that. And just one for Jess, the longest pause before you stood over the rabbi's body and you say, she considers it. Because we all knew.
Honestly, there was like two wolves inside me, really fighting one another. There, that was bad.
I think if we ever have to hear the hard recording, I'm over here like, don't do it.
So good.
I am muttering to myself a fair bit, so there is every chance that if we get the unfiltered recording, it's just me being like, do I like her hands? I don't know.
But they just lastly, there was a bit where Wren, you said Miss Quinn, Cecelie, and Michelle replied with Miss Jean-Baptiste, Phoebe. It was just so good. Yeah, like stars around. I loved it tonight.
Yeah, stars for everybody. I just freaking love playing in this game. I could pull out like specific moments, but it's difficult because every moment in all of your scenes is just so exciting. And I just like, it's never what I expect. Like none of you ever do the thing I expect, which is great. Like I thought I was going to get denied access to Haskell because he was out already, but no, it's because of the weird possessiveness that Dr. Mortar has over him, and that's way more exciting and unexpected. Like I don't know what I expected the other Jean-Baptiste to be, but I didn't expect what Wren created, and I never know what Haskell's up to, so it's always a delight to find out what he's got. What weird petty revenge is Haskell making this week? I love it. And yeah, Jason, you always turn the tables on us when we least expect it to. So I'm just on the edge of my seat playing because I can't wait to see what everyone else is going to do. I love it. My wish is that it's less hot next week because my god. Like, I do use makeup to make my face shiny for Cecelie, but this isn't makeup, lads. This is just sweat. It's not good.
I'll jump in. There was a line from Michelle just during the orrery scene where you just how many of you are there? And then you brought it back to just how many of me is there? And it was like joy to horror, so fast, so undeniable. And everything you do with the character breathes the full manifesto of it. It's so good. I also really enjoyed, again, I'm beginning to sort of see them as like Michelle tie-ups of the unseen now. You bring everything in for one hell of a finale. It's from the one we did with the caretaker, the couple that have fallen out of love, to this. It again just hits really different. You twist it in a direction I don't expect coming. I really love it. So big ups there. Ms. Phoebe, when you walk out in London and you stretch out your senses, I get so worried. Because you know you're enticing Jason to give you his worst.
That's my favorite move. I love this move.
Exactly. And every time you do it, something awful has happened, and you are not shying away from it. You're having a fucking blast with it. Also the description of the Hisao, and then you going, "No, I know this god." That chills. I got genuine chills there. Matt, I didn't realize that was what the clothing questions were about. That's such a shocker, but I love that you have put that in there to hit that Dawn question. I also really love the description of the clothes. I love that we matched. That was really cool. Big fan of that. And then also the description of the knife that you gave. It's two knives. Was it two blades?
Two blades close together. Oh, prison
two
trick.
blades.
Don't ask how I know that.
See, it's things like that add another layer of depth to it. The description of how you killed Blake at the beginning. Oh, God. Just a wonderful spread, an incredible spread. And Jason, everything, every little twist that I think I see coming, and then it's so far out of left field. Oh God! It leaves the sculptor and there's no teeth, and Ms. Jean-Baptiste has her babies. Dr. Mortimer has her teeth. It's a thing. Don't question it. Oh, it's fantastic. Thank you so much.
I guess for my part, Jason, two things. One, I was half prepared to roleplay against myself for the orrery bit. And then you jumping in with Franklin. And it's so funny how I had an idea of how the other me would react to Cecelie, and you did it without me saying anything to you. And I was just like, it was for a slightly different reason than I thought, but it's the same reaction, and that works out great. So that was so fun. And then the second thing is, thank you for continuing the trend of old baby will live forever. He is not young, he's old. Ties up with the vampire so nicely. And also Mary Alice. But yeah, no, it's always fun seeing what you come up with based on what we give you, which sometimes is very left field stuff, but you take it in stride, and so I'm grateful. Cecelie, Michelle, thank you for that little vulnerable scene and coming with me on this journey through time and space. But I really, to kind of echo what Jess said, that moment of realization that you had when it's like, oh, there could be others of me. I am not unique in the world. And all of the, am I having a crisis right now? It's just the look that washed over your face was so poignant and just very much Cecelie as I've come to know her. And so it's just great to see her reflected just in that little microcosm of a moment. Jess, the way that you took down Sally, at first I was like, but I want her in the house. And then and then it was just like, actually, this is great. We don't need her in the house. Let's just kill her. It's fine. And I think that sentiment echoed like throughout the rest of us. So it was just like, this is a great scene, and I love what you're doing. And Jason's running with it, so it really doesn't matter. Do whatever you want. And did, and it was great. And then Matt, the way that you brought back Blake and Haskell in the first, we get to see Blake die, and then in the Mask of Beauty we see that Haskell like loved Blake, and it's just but why? And we get all of these little like tragic pieces of history that may not ever get to be known by anyone. And so it's just nice to see that bit of who Haskell used to be. I say this every time because Haskell is very much a very like straightforward, you think you know he is on the face of it, and then it's like, no, it's not. His name's not even Haskell. Secrets abound. I'm having a great time, guys.
Thanks for watching, everyone. That was another great episode, and I really feel like we're hurtling our way towards the end of this campaign now. And yeah, I'm just loving where it's going, loving playing with this table, and loving having Jason torture us on a weekly basis. Huge thank you to Jason and Gauntlet for hooking us up early with the new edition of the game. And a huge thank you to my patrons for making this possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you a million times. Thank you. We'll be back next time, and until then, it is farewell and safe passage.